When we talk about boundaries, we need to understand why they're so important. When you think about like being in marriage and you think about creating the marriage you want, you need to be a part of the decision making. And when you don't set boundaries, you basically eliminate part of yourself from creating the marriage you want. And so we need boundaries, because if we don't set boundaries, if we don't have an identity on what our marriage is going to look like, what's permitted in our marriage, what's not, standards for how we interact with one another, what we're doing is we're allowing other people, other outside situations define who we show up as.
We still do. We still do. We still do. We still do. After all this time at the altar, I alter my mind and vow to God I love you till he make his return. The rain should be the least of your concern. Under God's umbrella, I promise to provide and preserve his word and to serve your mind and spirit. Let me drive the boat. I promise I'ma steer it. The devil cannot get near it. You'll know this soon as you hear it. You need me, I need you. Even after the altar, we still do.
Welcome back to another episode of We Still Do. We are your hosts. My name is Lena.
I'm Jermaine.
My handsome husband. And if you are newlyweds or decades in, we have something for you here at We Still Do. We believe that you can thrive after the altar and your marriage can get better.
Yes, and like, subscribe, click that bell so you can get notifications on when we drop. That made me think of a Boosie song. But yeah.
He has a little hood in him, y'all forgive us.
Yeah, go ahead and share. You know, if you find it helpful, share it with somebody, help them out. So let's get into it. How you feeling?
I'm hangry, but I had a little trail mix kit to get us through the episode, so then you could take me on a date and feed me. Okay.
All right, I'll make sure we do that.
How are you doing?
I'm doing good. My pockets ain't doing good because we got a big appetite. Just kidding.
Wow.
Just kidding. I'm doing good. Tired, but it's a good tired. I'm not tired because like I'm just watching TV all day. You know, I'm tired from work. So I'm grateful for it. I'm doing good.
Sometimes the blessings can be a little bit weighty, right? I seen a quote that was saying like, how blessed to be overwhelmed from the things you prayed for, you know? And so I can see, although weighty, still a blessing. Okay. A good tired.
Overwhelmed.
What? What's going on through your head? What did that bring up for you? I'm in my therapist's bag if y'all ain't noticed.
What came up for me was when you said overwhelmed, when I walk in the bathroom and you're brushing your teeth and your backside face me, I get overwhelmed.
What?
I get overwhelmed.
Oh, really? Okay. So tell them what we're talking about today.
You blessing. You good?
I'm fine. Tell them what we're talking about.
You are fine.
Oh,
but now you're fine and blessing.
Tell them what we're talking about.
It's almost hard to even see you got on glasses because you about the same color as your glasses.
I'm turning red.
Yeah, you turning red. Red bone.
Oh, okay.
You know what? If you combine the word red and the nickname they used to give you back in the day, you would be a red bone, and that's not a double entendre.
Quite literally, yes. You're right.
Yeah.
My family used to call me bone because I'm skin and bones.
Yeah, but now
I'm thicker now, though. Thicker than a Snicker.
You thick and bone.
Okay. Tell them what we talking about today.
Bone.
That's not Cisco Thong song, really?
I didn't say thong. I said bone, didn't
I? Okay. All right.
Rock with
today,
me
y'all. Today.
I wanna rock. Okay, go ahead.
Whole karaoke session. Today we are talking about a topic that I feel like is really going to bless y'all, really help you out, give you different perspective. Some of you may have heard of this word. Some of you may have talked about this word, and others of you have never had the conversation to set this word in place in your marriage. So today, can I have a drum roll? We are talking about boundaries. And boundaries that helps you have a healthy marriage.
And it sounds so simple, so cliche, but we want y'all to stick with us because when we talk about boundaries, we need to understand why they're so important. When you think about like being in marriage and you think about creating the marriage you want, you need to be a part of the decision making.
Mm.
And when you don't set boundaries, you basically eliminate part of yourself from creating the marriage you want. And so we need boundaries, because if we don't set boundaries, if we don't have an identity on what our marriage is going to look like, what's permitted in our marriage, what's not, standards for how we interact with one another, what we're doing is we're allowing other people, other outside situations define who we show up as. Excuse me. That smell like just straight Doritos.
Ew.
This is my mic. You ain't got to worry about it. But when we don't set boundaries, someone else sets the boundary for us.
Yep.
And when someone else make decisions on our behalf, especially when we don't want them to, or in areas where we feel we should have the decision-making power, we often build resentment. That resentment not only is towards the other people, but it's also with our spouse. And it affects how we show up with our spouse, because there's usually unspoken expectations when it comes to certain decisions that need to be made. Like, traditionally, and I know it's different, with other different, depending on your family, like all families across the, it's different. Traditionally, the male is the head of the home. And the unspoken expectation is that as the provider, visionary, the leader of our home, that you are going to make good decisions for us. If you don't make good decisions, or if I feel like we're not making good decisions, or we're combative with making good decisions, that's going to impact our relationship. And it's not just with the male, because when there is that missing piece, then sometimes in certain situations, it makes the wife feel like she has to step up and make those choices. And now, because we didn't clearly define what is in our marriage, who has influence in our marriage, and what we're going to allow, what decisions we're going to make, or what decisions we need to seek counsel on, we're allowing outside influences to dictate how we look in our marriage. And so I think it's important to know, what do you want your marriage to look like? If you don't know what you want your marriage to look like, you don't know what to keep out of your marriage. You don't know what you need to be striving towards in your marriage. And so it's important to understand the need for boundaries, because somebody else will make decisions on your behalf, and you might not like that.
Yeah. And I think we should rewind a little bit and just go back to what boundaries are. Like,
Okay.
What is boundaries? And I believe that boundaries is a form of protection. And it's actually setting the boundary line to let you know what we are going to allow inside the marriage and what we are going to exclude from outside of our marriage, or to have, outside influence on what's happening inside of our marriage.
Yeah.
And I think about Genesis and the scripture that says, a man shall leave his mama and his daddy and cleave to his wife. And so that lets you know that this union is now what's being prioritized. And in that, in-laws, outlaws, however y'all want to call them, should not have a say on what happens inside the marriage. And I feel like that's one of the big ones that we hear a lot of marriages like struggling with, or having issues in terms of the boundary line and that being made clear within the marriage, is like family members.
Yeah.
And I remember early on for us, when we got married, I think this scripture in the Bible, and I want to read it because it talks about Deuteronomy 24:5. It says, when a man is newly married, he shall not go out with the army or be liable for any other public duty. He shall be free at home 1 year to be happy with his wife, whom he has taken. What I thought was so cool about that is their first year of marriage. It's like, okay, typically the men would go to battle, but if you get married, you can't get called to the army, military. We ain't calling you. Stay and enjoy your wife and be happy with your wife. In some translations, it says, now that's a boundary, right? That's it. Like, I'm going to spend all my time. I'm prioritizing this relationship. They held the covenant of marriage to such a high esteem to even allow for that. You ain't going to even work. You ain't going to go to war. You ain't going to fight. You just going to focus on this union. And I think the understanding is this fresh union is so vital for us to gain a strong foundation that we're building upon before any outside influences, have circumstances, fighting, distance, being away from your spouse, for anything like that to come in and taint the marriage.
Yeah.
And so I think boundaries, it's a form of protection.
Yeah, it is a form of protection. And when you talk about um like that scripture, like it makes me think of like how it is now in today's time. Like when we get married, the man's mind shifts to I gotta provide. I gotta go out and go harder. I gotta grind. And in that, like there becomes this pattern oftentimes of like I need to go out and provide, and that is my way of showing up for my spouse. And I think that's great intention, but I think one of the things that gets lost in that is we start to identify roles, but we don't set boundaries.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like we go out and grind, but we don't hold to, okay, don't work so late, or we don't hold to, be careful who you sharing our business with. You know what I'm saying? Like we go out and grind, we go out and make things happen. And as we're doing that, one of the things that starts to happen is we lose this emotional connection, which is the fabric that keeps us close. You know what I'm saying? In the relationship. And when you also talked about and you defined boundaries, like I thought of two things. I just thought of simply like a fence around a house, but then I also thought about how we used to draw the line in the line in the dirt with a stick when we were younger.
Mm.
But when you think about it, think about how drawing that line kind of shaped our behavior, you know what I'm saying? Like in relationships. I don't know about you, but I intentionally crossed the line when somebody drew it.
Yeah, I did too.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, oh, you gonna draw it. I don't care nothing about that. You know what I'm saying? But when you
Mhm.
think about it, think about how many people intentionally cross boundary lines,
Mm.
or like when somebody crosses that boundary line, all you do is just set a new one.
Mm.
Like you don't help them stay to that boundary. You know what I'm saying? And so we just get used to,
Rewriting it,
as
making
a
a new
kid,
line.
we make a new line. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And part of the problem in that is, especially when we talk about like boundaries with families and things like that, there becomes this enmeshment, and that blurs the line of like where our family ends, you know, like where our marriage ends, and our family on the other side of that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's almost like you have to create like different boundaries for different types of relationship. I remember doing an exercise in class. It was like we were talking about like different family theories, you know,
Mhm.
like how people see families basically. And so there was one there was one particular theory that I was fascinated with, and it was about this it was about this guy. His name is Salvador Minuchin. And basically like he grew up with his family structured a certain way. Like I think his like dad, he went to go work, mom took care of the house or whatever. And I think he ended up having to go through the Great Depression. So like there was like everything was structured and it was nice and it was neat. Like everybody knew what they were doing. Like parents, they made decisions together. You know, the dad, he went out, provided, the mom took care of the kids. She was a part of all the things. And then uh kids are kids. Like if we talk and stay out, you know what I'm saying? Like y'all not in this. But the Great Depression, like I believe that was it. Like it turned his family upside down. His dad lost his job, you know what I'm saying? And then that affected him, that affected the dad, and he showed up a certain way in his family. And so what he found out is like that when the family is structured a certain way and we understand that structure, you know what I'm saying, we can operate in a way that we know who's who. We know, what, like, okay, so when we talk about husband, wife, we know that this operates a certain way, make decisions. We keep the kids out of the business when it comes to those type of decisions, whatever that may look like. But then we also know what it looks like when, uh, father's talking to or son, or father talking to daughter, whatever. We have identity of what it looks like. And so it's almost like these boundary lines of this particular relationship. And then there's a bigger boundary line around like us, our kids. And then there's like outside of that boundary line is like close relatives.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Like sisters, brothers, uncles, and whoever else is close. And then there's another one. And so like there needs to be an understanding of who's in what. You know what I'm saying? That was fascinating to me when I was in school, because it's like, for our family, the final decision comes from mom and dad, not father-in-law. You know what I'm saying? Like, I remember talking to a couple, and the husband was so frustrated because he was trying to please his wife. And he found out that a lot of the wife's decisions was based on what she was taught by her father.
Mm.
Understandable. But currently, he would say things, speak things into their relationship, and dictate how they showed up. So much so that it influenced the way the husband was. And so now he has this resentment towards his wife. And it's really just a matter of like, that's like, we love him, but he needs to be out of the decisions for us and our kids. He can have influence, but he can't have the final say. And so boundaries help us understand who has the final say.
Yeah.
Like, when it comes to who's making decisions, like, how does it look when we allow our kids to make choices about their outfits? What's permitted? Who has say on that? What's allowed? You know what I'm saying? It really helps us have like these boundaries. And so I don't know. I was just thinking about like us as kids redrawing these lines in the sand, and not seeing how that really impacts us today, because a lot of people don't like feel confident to speak up and set boundaries because they feel about setting boundaries is aggressive. When in reality, setting boundaries is assertive. Not setting boundaries, a lot of people, you know, are passive because they allow people to define where their boundary is. And that's where we find ourselves in more resentment.
And then you build I love how you shared that illustration about when you were kids and how you would draw this line in the sand, and then you would just skip right on over that, because that's the reality of what it looks like with a lot of us in terms of the boundaries that we set that are not being honored or not being expressed, so that it's clear that this is my boundary line. Don't cross this. I'm not making a new line. I'm not moving my boundary line for you. Stay back. You know what I mean? I think one of the first boundaries that I want to talk about is boundaries that just personally we have in our marriage that helps us to protect our marriage, because you talked about that fence, right? That protects us in our union. And the first one I want to talk about is opposite sex. The boundaries we have with the opposite sex. For us, this was a boundary that we had to talk about early on in our marriage. And one of them was like, okay, you're not going to be nowhere with the opposite sex, you know, not because of an insecurity, but because of wisdom, right? In the Bible, it tells us in Romans, don't let your good be spoken evil of. And if somebody see you out eating lunch with somebody, for one, that would actually look bad, right? But also because of the honor and the respect that you have for me and the potential of what can happen with you allowing that kind of intimacy with someone to be out. You know, there's no reason for you to be out eating lunch with the opposite sex by yourself. But that is one of the boundaries that we set. I also think not sharing and conveying intimate things about our marriage, emotionally intimate things with the opposite sex, because a lot of times we're just looking at the physical aspect of an affair, but emotional affairs are real and they happen often. And social media is a huge part of that. So those are some boundaries with the opposite sex that we have set early on in our marriage. Did I miss anything on the opposite sex?
No, I think just reiterating that this is something that we set for our marriage.
For our marriage, yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because there might be other couples who might feel different. And whatever works for them works for them. And so, like, realizing that we set this in place. And so I think it's even good. It's even good to note just the differences in when we were setting that boundary, because it was something that more so you were like, this ain't it. And me, I was just like, but I'm cool. You know what I'm saying?
We're just
like,
friends. No big deal.
You know what I'm saying? And so
it was actually work related.
Right. And so, you know what I'm saying? Like, in that, it's like, okay, you like, no, it like, it makes me it makes me feel a type of way, but I also want to safeguard our marriage. And that was your intention for bringing that up. And for me, it's like, I'm used to this. Like, you come from, primarily the church world, you know what I'm saying? Like me, I didn't really take my walk with Christ serious until I got in California. So I got not 18 years because I was a kid, but at least a good 5 or 6 years where like I'm spending time, you know what I'm saying, like with just friends. I'm not even talking about like like
genuine
chicks
friendship.
that you know what I'm saying, like genuine friendships. And so that was a huge adjustment for me.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And I know oftentimes when we're in those situations where it's like we experience that differently, oftentimes that causes friction in the relationship because it's like, well, I don't see this as a problem and you see it as a problem. And oftentimes we just lean in marriages, oftentimes we lean on what we feel and what we think. When in reality, the most important part is like, I don't ever want to do something that's going to make my spouse feel like I don't consider her or her emotions in the decisions I make. And so like it wasn't necessarily hard for me to make the switch, but it was still like dang, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like what is like what does it look like to have friendships in that sense?
Yeah.
And then like eventually like it's like, oh man, like I'm glad we did that. Because when you look at just how other people fall and other people make mistakes, it's in those moments, you know what I'm saying, where like they're working, they're getting lunch, and then okay, it's a late project and they have to stay out just a little bit late, or it's that certain night where the conversation with their wife, you know what I'm saying, is just a little tense, and it's like, oh, I just don't got time for this, and so now I'm around somebody who makes me feel relaxed, and they got to worry about all these things, and now in that moment, there's a different connection that you have with that person than just work, and it's not just work related. Now it's a sense of peace. And now when you have this sense of peace, your body desires peace. And so you're going to want more of that. And so every time, or at least a lot of times, if you're not careful and you like are going through it with your spouse or whatever the case may be, and you find a sense of peace here, you're going to divert to that if you're not careful. And so I'm looking at these things and I'm like, man, like I'm glad we set that in place. I'm glad that we established the type of safety in our relationship so I can come to you and talk about the things that are troublesome. I can come to you and just get it off my chest. Like I can tell you like, okay, I just need a minute. Like I don't want to talk right now. Like let me just chill, let me just gather my thoughts. Like, and I can come back versus you making it something like dramatic. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you don't want to talk to me? Oh, what? Why not? What you gotta hide? You know what I'm saying? Like doing all that and creating a space for each other to coexist as we are with our natural personality styles. And so that was a necessary boundary. So I don't think it's a matter of like forgetting anything. I just think just elaborating on like, this is what works for us.
Right. It does work for us. And I want to also say that it creates this guardrail for prevention before an accident happens. And I'm also looking at it in a sense of like, to you in that moment, if we go back to the beginning of our first year of marriage, it was something that was just pure. It was innocent. It was like we friends, we coworkers, whatever. But I also wanted to safeguard our marriage in terms of the enemy because he only needs a little bit, you know what I mean? And he can take hold or just one little thing. It can be like I was talking about the conversation. It could be a hard day for us, sharing struggles in your marriage with the opposite sex. Any little thing like that he can get in because he hates the covenant of marriage so much because it's representative of Christ. Of course he would. So that was a part of it. It was like, okay, if boundaries are creating this protection, right, for our marriage, from things outside of our marriage, then it's also, I feel like without that fence, without that boundary line, then you also leave room for anyone to just come on in and attack, right? When you think of a house that's protected with a fence, without that protection, then they could just walk on in your house. And I don't want to give room for the enemy to walk up in here.
Yeah. And like it also made me think about, because we were talking about this obviously off camera, but like it's one thing to have boundaries, but it's another thing to know when those boundaries are crossed
Mm-hmm.
or when those boundaries are about to be crossed. And this makes me think of the reason people get alarm systems.
Mm.
When people get alarm systems, it's because if somebody comes into this boundary, comes into our house, when we have the alarm system set,
Mm-hmm.
we will know. We will respond accordingly once the trigger has been set
Mm-hmm.
or it goes off. Oftentimes, people don't have alarm systems for their boundaries. Like, they make demands, they don't set boundaries. Like, don't do this or don't do that. Like, they're demands, and they're almost like disrespectful in a sense, and it's not considering the health of the relationship, is more so considering they actually get bit by a mosquito, bro. What the heck is that?
Wow. On you today.
But anyway, so when we think about like what are the alarm systems to let us know when a boundary is being crossed? Like, how do we know when we are allowing outside influences, when we're allowing our step parents, when we're allowing our sisters or brothers to influence us, when we're allowing the influences of the outside world, whether it's a relationship with a coworker that, you know what I'm saying, like I feel the inclination to share more with, to be more nice to, like, what are those things that are in place? Do we give our spouse room to speak into that, to confront it? You know what I'm saying? Like, do we have that in our marriage to safeguard what we have? Because if we don't have the alarm system in place, like you said, anybody can really come into our home.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
and come into our marriage.
When we're not there and we set the alarm system, we still get notified if you got a good alarm system.
Mm-hmm.
If you just have locked doors, you might not know who comes in unless, you know what I'm saying, you're there. And so having these alarm systems, they help us identify, okay, there's a breach. We know where the breach was. The breach was the back sliding door.
Mm-hmm.
We know that that back sliding door was the way we talk to each other. Boundary is we're not going to talk to each other in a crazy way. We're not going to call each other out our names. And so we know that when we feel that urge to do that, if that's something that was a part of your past, then we know that that's a breach. And now what are the actions to follow when we feel that urge? Do we share that with our spouse? Do we share that with a close friend? Do we share it with a pastor? Do we share it with a mentor or a coach, whatever? Like, what guardrails are in place to ensure that you have the things you need when you're struggling?
Mm-hmm.
And so oftentimes we don't have that, and we need more of that.
I like, you had this analogy that you were sharing about, of course, the fence is what comes in, right? What's inside or outside of the marriage, the alarm being the warning signs. And literally what you were just talking about, the warning signs, basically, if I'm voicing a concern, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that back door, somebody came in the back door and I'm voicing the concern of like, hey, I don't like you being anywhere by yourself with the opposite sex, or hey, it's too late. You don't need to be texting nobody or DMing or whatever that looks like. If I'm not able to voice my concern, then that's going to set off the alarm. The alarm in me, because I'm triggered by something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm bringing that to you. And if you're ignoring the alarm and it's just ringing and ringing and ringing, now we're talking about resentment. We're talking about disunity. Mm-hmm. We're talking about distrust in the marriage, mm-hmm. all because we chose to ignore the alarm system that's going off that we set in place.
And this is one of the things that I think makes it difficult with that, because a lot of people can see you coming to me or their partner coming to them with that type of issue as insecurity. And very well so.
Very secure woman.
Might be insecurity.
For some, for sure.
But even if it's insecurity, how do you make them feel safe?
That's good.
Because it doesn't matter about them feeling a type of way. It doesn't matter about the idea of them being jealous. What do you do to make them feel safe in the decisions that you make following when they bring an issue to you? You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, you just, like I've heard several people say that, oh, you just insecure. Okay. make them feel safe. Make them
Make
feel
them feel
secure.
secure, right?
If you can't make them feel secure, then you don't need to be their husband or you don't need to be their wife. Because what's the point of being in a relationship if they can't feel safe with the person they committed their life to?
Right.
As a husband, like you're committed to lead, how can you serve her in a way that makes her feel safe? As a wife, how can you not make him jealous because you feel a type of way about, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we have to create this sense of safety.
And take responsibility is what I hear you saying. Like, take responsibility. If you feel like your wife is insecure about something or your husband is insecure about something, the responsibility falls on you, because what have you allowed to cause that insecurity, or what is lacking for them to feel secure in the marriage? And I feel like, just in general, for us speaking, like, you came to me recently with something and you didn't know how I was going to respond. And it's like, I'm secure. I'm secure in our love. I'm secure in what we have and the boundaries that we set, which I'm not insecure. So even with saying the opposite sex, it was never about insecurity. Like, I always felt safe in your love. It was more so about guarding and protecting what we have. And I feel like every marriage should have those rules, those boundaries, the things that you have in place. And we were talking about just different boundaries. The opposite sex is just one of them, right? And, you know.
Yeah. And before we jump into those, you brought up a good point, because you said, like, I brought something to you, but if I didn't feel safe, it would be hard to bring that to you. Because that's an insecurity that I had based off of mistakes I made in the past. And so coming to you still was like triggering for me, because it's like, I don't know. Even though when I check our track record, when I think about all the times we've turned towards each other, all the times we had difficult conversations, all the times we made up when we didn't disagree, or, you know, there was a rift in our relationship, like all the times we found our way back to each other and grew our connection, there still was this part of me that's like, man, I don't know. But because I feel safe in our relationship, I was able to bring that to you, even though it felt hard to do or it felt uncomfortable to do. And so sometimes the insecurities aren't necessarily the spouse's like doing, but how do we take responsibility to create safety for our spouse? And so hearing you share that, I think it's important for couples to catch that, because if they can't create safety, then they can't create openness from their partner. And so I think another boundary that we have is basically, like I call it in therapy, is a no secrets policy. Like, if it's something you want to know, you have access to all of it. There's not one part of my life that you don't have access to.
Including your cell phone and your iPad and your laptop.
Including my passwords.
And your credit cards.
Including emails. I don't really use credit cards, so
Debit
you can
cards.
have that. Including emails, you know what I'm saying? Like, whatever you want to know, you have access to.
Yeah.
Because I don't ever want you to feel like I'm hiding something from you. Because even if I don't have anything to hide and I tell you that you can't have access to, or I'm not going to let you get into my phone, why you want to get into my phone, that's going to put questions in your head to question, like, my intent, or is there something I'm hiding? And when you let that fester, now, because there's that question, now you're going to look for things that I'm hiding. And eventually you'll find something, even if it's not necessarily true. And that's going to create a situation. And so that's one of the things that we got in place as far as boundaries we set.
Yeah.
You got everything I have, you got access to. No, everything I have, you got access to. That's why I changed my words.
Yeah. That's good. That's really, really good, actually. Another boundary that I think we have is, this one's probably not one that you often hear about, but I feel like we have this boundary to protect when it comes to our growth, both individually and collectively, right? That's spiritually, that's with our goals, in business, in our marriage. I feel like we have built our marriage in such a way with the boundaries that protects that. Like, we're not moving date night. Nope, this is date night. Whatever else, there's no conflicting. We prioritize that, right? And our growth, when it comes to us growing, we check each other. What's your goals? How are you doing? What you working on? What is the Lord speaking to you? Like, I feel like that is a way that keeps us growing and not growing stagnant and complacent, both individually and collectively in our marriage, because us growing individually pours into the marriage, right? And benefits the marriage. And so I think that is a boundary that we have set, whether we're reading books together or individually and then discussing it. Obviously, we work on several things for marriages, but I feel like that is something that has really, like, we safeguard our growth because we don't want to be complacent. We don't want to just cruise in our marriage. We don't want to be on autopilot. And so protecting our growth, I think there's a fence around that thing.
Yeah, I agree. I like that. What's the next one?
Oh, you don't got the next one?
No.
It's all on me?
All on you from here, big dog.
Okay. We don't threaten to leave the relationship. We do not practice the D word. We do not use, like, in the heat of an argument or in the heat of a disagreement, we're not threatened to leave or divorce or whatever. That's a boundary. We don't use that. We also don't call each other out of our names. We don't speak negatively to one another or even to others about one another. And so I feel like that also is a boundary that we have in our marriage.
Yeah. And I will second that on just the threats, because when you make a threat, now you're either calling somebody's bluff or you trying to see if they're going to be a person of their word and do what they say they're going to do when they respond to your threat. And threatening divorce makes it feel like you got one foot in and one foot out anyways. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's to me, it feels like a prenuptial agreement. Like there's a part of me that you don't have access to. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can have access to my heart, you can have access to my kids, you can have access to my home. You ain't got access to my money. Like, this trust, this ain't for you. And I completely get the concept if something you built, whatever. But when you started off and you say there's something that you can't have that I got, you're already setting a boundary. That's a boundary. That's a hard boundary. Like, I work for this. You ain't getting it. And so what that says is, like, there's a part of our love that has no trespass signs on it. Excuse me. And so when you think about what did I just talk
about? Prenuptial.
No, before that. I was trying to get somewhere. I forgot.
I don't know where you were going with that. You were talking about the threatening of divorce.
Threatening of divorce, the threats. There you go. I seen you and I thought about it after the podcast. But anyways, what do you expect? Can't do anything about it. You should never marry me looking that good.
You look good.
Thank you. Talk to me some more.
Okay, that's it.
We can end this podcast short. Anyway, so we don't make those threats.
Yeah.
Because we want each other to know, like, just because we going through a rough time, like, we still serious about our relationship. We still want this thing to last forever. And I think that is the main reason why we don't threaten it, because we actually want to stay together forever.
Yeah. Divorce ain't
God option. Willing, like, we want to be in this thing as long as we can together. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we're not going to threaten something that's going to threaten the happiness and joy and the thriving that we have in our relationship now. Yeah. It's always conducive to closeness, oneness, unity, love, like all the things. So,
another boundary that we have is that we don't fault find or keep record of wrongdoing. So where I'm looking for the opportune time in the midst of a disagreement or argument to use the past mistakes or failures as ammo to throw in your face. You know what I mean? And so that is a boundary that we have. Like, love keeps no record of wrongs. And so I'm not fault finding to be able to throw it back up in your face.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Another one is, for us in particular, like, we're going to talk about it. There may be times where we go to bed. The Bible says, don't let the sun go down on your anger, right? And cause you to sin. We really take that to heart. And so we will discuss and talk about something before we're going to bed. We're not going to sleep on it if there's anything that's unresolved. We had one time that we actually had something that wasn't resolved. And it took us a few days, a few conversations that we had to have.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't like there was this anger and this resentment that the enemy could use against one another. Like, we were still good. We were still being intimate. We were still talking. We were still dating. It was just that there was no resolve with a disagreement. I was just thinking about that. So technically, not letting, that's a boundary that we have. It's like, okay.
Right, but letting the sun go down on your anger and do not sin, like, that doesn't say, like don't let the sun go down on your anger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it doesn't mean that we have to have resolve. You know what I'm
That's a good
saying?
point.
Like,
That's a good
it's
point.
saying, like, this is something that we are proactive with, trying to find resolve, trying to manage, trying to find a solution, compromise, whatever it is. And it's something that we're constantly doing. It's not like we have it one time, we still feel there's something in between us, some friction or whatever, and we just let it coast off until it fall off. No, like, we actually bring it back up. Like, we talk about it again.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we leave it, if we fester it, or if we let it fester, then that can build into anger, that can build into resentment, that can build into me seeing you in a different way. You know what I'm saying? And so constantly talking about it shows each other that we still want this closeness that we feel has been disrupted.
Yeah.
And so I would say that we don't let it go down on our anger and let our anger just cause us to sin. You know what I'm saying? Like, we proactively come back together. So,
do you think of any other boundaries we got in our marriage?
Yeah, nowhere in the house is off limits.
Oh my gosh, focus
on me. Baby, can you focus? Give me some reverb.
Okay. Boundaries.
Reverb me. Marriage emotion. Where are we? I think we're at marriage emotion.
We're at the marriage emotion. Okay. It's
Listen.
a marriage emotion.
Listen.
Oh, you want them to listen or me?
Both of y'all.
Okay.
Love the way I am.
I do love you the way you are.
Love me. Love me.
Are you doing poetry right now or what?
Rapunzel, let down your hair.
Okay. He is so distracted. Marriage emotion. Draw two new...
All right, go ahead. Oh, I'm done.
Marriage in motion. For this week's marriage in motion, draw two new boundary lines, right? If that's with intimacy, growth, opposite sex, technology, conflict, in-laws, outlaws, wherever you need to draw a new boundary line, discuss that with your partner, write it down, pray over it, and let that be the new boundary line that you set. And like we discussed, don't move that, right? Boundaries are for protection. It's for protection on what you allow inside and outside of your marriage. So discuss what that looks like for you and then pray about it.
I can't take my eyes off you.
All right. Thank you for watching. We still do.
Don't get nervous because the camera's on.
Thank you for watching. We still do. We are so glad that you have joined us. If this is helpful, share it with someone else who can learn about boundaries, how they can help you to have a healthy marriage.
And until next time, remember, thriving is for you. Peace.
Gonna love you always. No doubt you're my blessing. Ain't no second guessing. No one can separate. We find a good thing. Even after the altar, it's marriage in motion. We still do. We still do. We still do. We still do.